That dream of studying and working abroad has been made much accessible to everyone, including you. So worry less about how you're going to get there, because we always make it happen. This is Staffinders Ghana Limited. We offer a highly professional guidance and support system, both in your university and visa application process. Staffinders Ghana Limited is a highly trusted agency of the University of the West of Scotland, one of the largest modern universities offering a range of academic, social, and sporting facilities. You can apply for undergraduate, master's and PhD in business and creative industries, education, social sciences, computing, engineering, physical sciences, health, and life sciences. Come through Staffinders, and for your studies, you get yourself a laptop or a £500 gift voucher. Call on +233 598 4888 04. WhatsApp on +44 7404 711 049. Send us an email or visit our website for more information.
All right. Good afternoon. Welcome to Political Justice. Today, we're going to talk about two main issues. The political space in Ghana has been active for the past 1 week. Last week, the NDC delivered its manifesto, and the following day, Dr. Bawumia, the MPP's candidate, also had his engagement with the media. And as a result of that engagement, a lot of issues emerged relative to what they are promising should they be given the nod. And so we will talk about those as well. But in the meantime, I'm waiting for my panelists to join the show. They are running a few minutes late. So very soon I will have Dr. Zita Seshi joining me, and Dr. Oreku Ampofo, who is also a policy analyst based out in Canada, joining me today to talk about most of the issues that have emerged in the political space in Ghana. So as I mentioned, I would just go ahead and play a video of the former president speaking at the launch of the manifesto last week, Saturday, in Winneba.
Provide free sanitary pads for girls in school. If you remember, Nana Jane started that policy with a World Bank facility, and they called that loan the PAD loan. Yes, we are proud of the PAD loan. It will allow our young girls who are going through their periods to be neat and hygienic and not to miss school, be able to go to school all year round.
All right, Oreku. While I was waiting for you, I decided to play President Mahama during the campaign launch. So I have Zita here too. I have Zita Seshi, a sociologist in Canada, Oreku Ampofo, who is a policy analyst. And as I mentioned earlier, we are going to talk about the topical issues that emerged in the past 1 week. The political space in Ghana has been very busy. We had the NDC launch its manifesto in Winneba on Saturday, and then subsequent to that, the following day, the MPP's candidate in the person of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia had an engagement with the media where he took questions from them related to their manifesto, as well as related to things he had said in the past, which in their judgment haven't really come to fruition. So we'll talk about those. But I want us to begin with the NDC's manifesto. I think last week we had a conversation about the MPP's manifesto, and the decision was that we would engage with the NDC's manifesto today, and then sort of, if time would allow us, juxtapose both manifestos and see what are the greater takes away from both manifestos. So let me play a video of the former president speaking at the MDC's manifesto launch. He had delivered sort of initial comments summarizing most of the things in the manifesto. And I think for our purpose, just listening to some of the sound bites related to the content of the manifesto would lead us into the conversation that we want to have this afternoon. Right.
Uncap the national. We will provide free tertiary education for all persons with disability. And we will provide free sanitary pads for girls in school. If you remember, Nana Jane started that policy with a World Bank facility, and they called that loan the PAD loan. Yes, we are proud of the PAD loan. It will allow our young girls who are going through their periods to be neat and hygienic and not to miss school, be able to go to school all year round. We will uncap the National Health Insurance Levy. Currently, there's a cap on the levy, and so a certain portion of the levy goes into the consolidated fund. And so the Health Insurance Authority is not able to pay the health facilities, reimburse them for the services that they provide. We will uncap the health insurance so that all the National Health Insurance Levy will go into the National Health Insurance Fund so that they can pay the hospitals for looking after our people. And of course, this is associated with it. We'll reprioritize the health sector by ensuring timely releases of payment to service providers. We established the Ghana Medical Care Trust. into brackets, somebody calls it Mahama Cares, to support persons with chronic diseases such as kidney failure, cancer, sickle cell, diabetes, hypertension, and other health-related diseases. We'll also introduce the community pharmacy concept, and that will encourage people to go to your local pharmacy and go have your blood pressure taken and your sugar checked, so that if you have diabetes or high blood pressure, we're able to know early so that you can get treatment and be able to survive. We'll implement free primary health care services. So if you go to a CHIPS compound or a health center, whether you have a national health insurance card or not, you'll be treated for free. And so from the health center level down, polyclinic, health center, CHIPS compound, if you go, you'll be treated for free. From the district referral hospital upwards, you use your your national health insurance card and you receive treatment.
Okay, so I'll stop this here. There are other things in the manifesto that he articulated that I would get into later on. But, you know, just from this initial video, he talked about two main policies, one having to do with education for educational access for people with disability, and also the issue of health, right? Particularly those with those health conditions that have become burdensome on the finances of their families. We've heard so many times of people not being able to pay for dialysis, and I think that is a very thoughtful initiative from the former president. You know, incorporating something into a healthcare delivery system that would take care of people who are heavily financially burdened as a result of some of these, ailments. But I don't know if independently you guys listened to the speech, or you may have looked through the NDC's manifesto, and what are your initial impressions, either from listening to the former president while he was delivering his speech during the campaign launch, or perhaps going through the manifesto yourself. So I'll start with you, Zita, if you have any initial comments on this.
I think we've kind of talked about the NDC manifesto on this platform, and it's good to have seen the hard copy, the soft copy in terms of a PDF version, because I've listened to him. And I think most of the policies, or we don't want to say campaign promises or proposed policy initiatives, are quite spot on for me. Even though it wasn't mentioned in this clip, the concept of the free sanitary pad is something that he started some years ago when he was president.
Yeah, he actually mentioned that in this video.
Oh,
yeah.
he did.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
Excuse my
brain. And then
brain.
he said Prof. Nana started it when she was education minister.
Right. Excuse my brain fog. I have a lot going on at the moment. But yeah, definitely that is something that I commend him for doing, because I know that right now we call it the pink tax, that across the world women are complaining that haven't just been able to purchase access sanitary pads is quite expensive, just for even those of us who are working and all that. So that is spot on. Disability, I'm pretty much happy with it, and I think it should go, it needs to go beyond making sure persons with disability have access. We need to create, because Ghana is not a disability friendly country in terms of infrastructure. So if we choose to make provide financial incentive for persons with disability to be able to have access to education, I feel like the broader institutional changes must be in place, because even when you give them access, they're going to be encountering and dealing with systems that are just made for able-bodied persons in the institution. And so broader drive to make sure that university campuses, since this is related to education, because I would not be overly optimistic and say institutions across the country, but university campuses are disability friendly. That would be great. I never knew about that until I left Ghana. It is when I came to Canada that I realized, there are different systems in place to allow persons with disabilities navigate the system. And again, when we talk about the concept of disability, and that's one of the critique I will have for um, the manifesto, we always think about physical, but there are people who have different forms of learning disabilities and all that. And any of us who have had the privilege or opportunity to be a university or college instructor, we know that there are students who access different channels to take exam from the regular students if they have any learning challenges and all that. So in as much as physical disability is an issue, I would also say that moving forward, we need to account for intellectual disability.
Other forms of disability, yeah. Okay.
Yes, yes. Overall, um, interesting manifesto. I look forward to getting into more details. But for me, as somebody who is extremely passionate about gender, I am happy with the sanitary pad initiative and also the Women's Bank that was indicated in the manifesto. And I've said before, I think that is in the right direction, because when you look at the Ghana Living Standard Survey 2019 report is what I have looked at, more women are income contributing earners compared to men. Even though men are formally educated than women in Ghana, more women are income contributing members of the family, about 55% or more, over 50%. And so with that, I think it is in the right direction to support and fund, because most of our mothers or women are in the informal sector. And so to be able to provide them with financial incentives to support their business is good, because then it translates back into helping the family and making sure that the children within the family are taken care of. So these are my initial observations. So far, so good. There are some lofty policies, but I hope we can get into that as
Okay. So you hold your thought on the lofty policies, note them down, and I'll come to you about them. So Oreku, I think listening to the former president speak and perusing the manifesto, I think the NDC lives up to its social democratic billing. But the question still remains, how are some of these policies going to be funded? I mean, if you have any initial thoughts that you want to address, as well as address this question, you can go ahead.
Yeah, per the promise, they live up to. Okay, first of all, thank you so much, and thanks for the panelists. And I also want to say good afternoon to your viewers or listeners. Yes, and the NDC is living up to the social leaning billing, except that on paper and per record from 1992 to date, they really have no evidence to show that they are really left to the center political party. So that is also another thing we can talk about. But when it comes to this type of promises that they've made in their manifesto, of course, yes, they are living up to the left-leaning ideology of the party. Just that in Ghana, the reality is that whether you tout yourself as right or left, the reality on the ground and the fact of electoral expectation and the clientelist nature of our politics actually force all these political parties to be, in most cases, center left in terms of their policies and the programs that they pursue. But one thing that struck me in terms of the manifesto, and the way President Mahama was presenting it, I normally don't use former president. He was a president, so he's.
Say it again. I mean,
I normally don't call him ex-president because he was he was once a president. So President Mahama's manifesto promises, I think when I was listening to it and the brief that I've read online, it is becoming, and I'm worried, it's becoming that in Ghana now, before you can think of winning political office as a political party, all you have to do is to be promising free things. And to me, that is worrying. And that is also part of our own subculture. And I think Akufo-Addo started it because before Akufo-Addo, during the during the 2000 general election, there were a little element of free, but it was more based on policy. So I'm going to do free. For example, Akufo said he's going to do national health insurance. The concept was not free health insurance; it was national health insurance, which means insurance implicitly means that there's going to be a payment model in it. But now it has become like everybody is promising free, and nobody is really questioning how. What has changed that the last 8 years that the NDC think that they can just promise all these free things and be able to deliver it? What has changed? Has they all of a sudden they found a magic wand to be able to expand the revenue base of our country? All of a sudden they're going to stop corruption? All of a sudden all these things have disappeared, that they found a magic wand that all these free things that they are promising they'll be able to deliver? So me, that is a big question for me. It's not really about the manifesto. If you do a content analysis of all the manifestos for the past, for since 1992, they have lofty, good promises, progressive ones. But in most cases, they've not been able to achieve even 20% of it. But it has become that ever since I think Nana started this whole free mantra.
1D, 1 F.
Yes. It's become that everybody is following
one
that.
district, $1 million.
Yes. And that is where the politics, this generation of politics, that's where it's going taking us. And it's scary. It's scary because nobody is talking about the structural, revamping the structural foundation of our tax system. Because that's where you're going to get the money from. How are you going to get all this money, all these promises you are talking about? How are you going to get money? Why don't we have discussions on how we're going to improve our system, institutions, and our tax system in such a way that we'll be able to generate money? How are we going to ensure that we transform the structure of our economy and we revamp our land tenure system? Those are the things that when you do, you're going to get money for all these free things that you're talking about. But for now, it's all about, for me, promises. The disability, free for disability people is laudable. Virtually all of them are laudable. I think if you're able to get access to persons with disability, is not only a political gain, it's moral imperative for any government to do that. So those ones can be isolated. But the rest of all those things that I'm going to provide free that, it's not, it kind of lower the level of our political discourse. It's just everybody is talking about a free mantra. And the NDC, who is more likely to win this election, doesn't give me that hope that there's going to be a paradigm shift in terms of institutions, in terms of structure, and in terms of new ways of doing things. Just that NDC will win this election, not based on the fact that they are good, because the NPP has failed and they are like kinship, they are the next in line and they are going to be in office. But for me, it doesn't give me any hope. It doesn't give me any.
But from your earlier comments, it sounds as if the social conditions, the prevailing social conditions in Ghana create the right conditions for the populists, free this, free that type of political promises. Because, I mean, a lot of people are, economically downtrodden.
Yeah.
So, and we see this play out in the primaries where you literally have to buy your way to win a primary seat, to contest a parliamentary election.
Yeah.
And what you are saying here is we probably require some sort of ideological re-engineering or an ideological transformation where maybe, I mean, I'm not too capitalist, but to some extent, some elements of the laissez-faire approach to doing things where you would put responsibilities to the individual, right? But I think if you want to do that, then your government should be in a position to provide the prevailing environment that would make individual ingenuity and innovation possible and something fruitful. So, I mean, I always say the buck stops with the leaders, right? If we want to transform the idea of people, pulling themselves up by the bootstraps and taking personal responsibility for their well-being, then the government has to do the right thing to create the enabling environment that would make that possible.
Yeah,
But
of course.
but that goes with maybe structural changes in our system as well, as you mentioned, right?
Yeah, and I'm not really talking about capitalism or talking about a free enterprise kind of system in this case, which of course I believe in, but I'm not really. When I talk about the fact that our politics and our electoral politics and manifesto politics has all been now based on free, and free, I'm equally talking about the fact that the free is not necessarily bad.
Yeah.
But the reality is that the free ought to be paid for.
But you let me come in a bit. Look, because why I say that is that, for instance, in the United States, right, there's a certain idea of personal responsibility. Say that if a political candidate went about promising free stuff, they are probably risking their electoral chances. Because the question of how they're going to pay for it is going to come in, right? And it seems like there's some sort of, general awareness among the populace that somehow, if the government is going to overspend, it would impact them materially in some way, shape, or form. And so that's why I say then there has to be some sort of ideological engineering that has been wired through the Ghanaian populace to understand that somehow the free promises are in a way going to negatively impact you, so that a presidential candidate doesn't feel that they are shortchanging themselves by being moderate in what they are promising. Because as it stands right now, if you promise less, it's very likely that you're shooting yourself in the foot. Right? So, I mean.
No, I agree. And to me, it's more of a kind of a civic culture thing and a type of political culture we've developed over time. But I think it got worse recently, where, I mean, I followed politics for long, during Rawlings and Kufuor. If Kufuor was promising free, it was insurance. So the whole concept of free was not captured in the conscience of people. It was, when I come, I'm going to do insurance, national health insurance scheme, like it's done elsewhere. But for me, the free thing also comes from the fact of our elections. It's so competitive, and it is in between patronage and rent seeking and clientelism. And in that sense, you see a situation whereby people or politicians have to pay, like you said, have to pay people to be able to get the nod to represent their own political party. And that whole culture of give me this before I vote for you has seeped into our policy governance. So when I come, I'm going to make this free, I'm going to give this free, I'm going to give that free. The reality is that they cannot deliver. And the electorate should understand that when people are promising you free, and they're not talking about a source of financing some of these free things, know that they cannot deliver. And even if they deliver at a painful cost, like the free education. I mean, some of us said that we support Nana's free education. It's a great initiative. Education ought to be free, and it has to be free. This is a moral imperative. But the whole idea that you're going to feed Ghanaians who before SS1 were feeding themselves, you're going to feed all of them, both rich and poor, is policy that you can never sustain. It's never. Even big countries cannot do that. Big countries with money cannot do that. So these are some of the things we have to start bringing it as part of our politics, and change the whole civic culture that these politicians can promise heaven and they can deliver. It's not. I remember NDC promised one-time payment for the national health insurance. And this is something that you look on paper to be simple. They could have. But when they did the maths, when they came to office, they realized it would not make sense to take only one-time payment for life. So they are not going to do that. So these are the reality that our politics is giving us, and this is the reality, the way people are responding, and our politicians will keep promising big and doing little.
All right, so Zita, piggybacking on the free SHS thing, right? I mean, I was listening to Newsfile today, and there was a huge argument there because apparently the NDC is taking credit for having initiated the free SHS. Now, the argument is, okay, yours wasn't completely full. I mean, wasn't completely free, The NDC's argument was that they were progressively moving towards that. If you look at it in terms of expedience for the pocketbook of the country, that probably was the best approach, right? But from the conversation I had today, it almost sounded as if you took that position, again, you'll be self-sabotaging as a political party. So how do politicians get out of this dilemma where, make promises that are realistic, and again, the free SHA you promised, they pushed you couldn't get out of it. And as a result of the overspending, we have seen the impact. We have failed to pay our national debt. This CD is a free fall. So, the overall instability of the economy, which in a way, indirectly, is impacting people negatively. How do politicians navigate this, especially with the current manifesto season that we are experiencing?
In Ghana, if you say the truth as a politician and you give them a realistic plan and policy, you will not win, because we are a country of free. Once somebody says, I'm giving you this for free. I was scrolling on TikTok this week, and they asked somebody, who are you going to vote for? And she said, oh, I'm voting NPP because of free SHS. Everybody, when you go to the village to find a child to come and live with you and support your, little business, you won't get it because all the kids are in school. And so we are in a country where everybody wants something for free. And that is how come, like I say the Ghanaian problem is an Esau complex. We don't have the ability to look into the future. We are focused on short term. Esau traded his destiny, his birthright, for an immediate hunger he wanted to quench. And that is the spirit of the Ghanaian and to a large extent the African. You come and tell them that you will do a progressive free SHS, whereby you will implement it within the next 10 years. And by then it will be comprehensive, systems will be in place. You will have a mechanism for funding it, and you will not get the vote. But they're expecting you to do magic. They will not ask, where are you going to get the resources to fund it? Are the infrastructure there to support it? They will not ask that, because we have that Esau complex. We want to, quench our hunger now. The average Ghanaian is not thinking about the Ghana that their children will inherit. They're not thinking about that. What type of Ghana would their children and their grandchildren inherit? They're not. We want it fixed now. And if you want it fixed now, guess what? You will always be scammed with policies that are not smart, that are not attainable, that are not measurable, and in terms of time bound, are not effective. So and education has been free. NPP only made it popular because of what? The whole right now, if you're not promising free stuff, you will not hook people. But education in Ghana, from the days of Nkrumah, when I was writing my doctoral research, has mainly been free. It is the feeding, the boarding, the feeding that I didn't go to a public school, but it is that was what parents were paying for.
Yeah, the feeding is the biggest bill. Yes.
Yes, that was what parents were paying for. So they've scrapped it and they've kind of made it free. But we look at it, it was shabbily implemented. But we are in a country where people don't want something that will yield. Ghana is the type of country that will not build a solid foundation. And at the end of the day, the house will crumble. But they don't think about that. They just think about, oh, let us have it now. But they don't ask the key question: sustainability, sources of funding. Public education in Ghana, to a large extent, have always been free. Parents were paying for food to a large extent. That was the huge cost. And so for me, if you're not claiming any policy, you will not win. And that's how we see this person say 24-hour economy. Just even look on social media and the level of campaign that is going on. Somebody says 24-hour economy. Another person is saying digitalization. It's just mantra. But in terms of feasibility of these policies, they are questionable. So the Ghanaian politician it's in a hook. If you don't promise them anything and make it look like you can build heaven overnight, they will not give you the mandate, because the ordinary electorate is not discerning, and it's not, I'm sorry to say, I'm not being disrespectful, but they don't have that level of awareness. And that is why I'm big on education, because our education system is creating the type of electorate that we have, who do not engage in any form of critical thinking, who are mantra and slogan, moved by mantras and slogan, and they move, but they are not asking the critical question. Neither Ghanaian electorates focused on the kind of Ghana that their children and their grandchildren will inherit. That is not their concern. But any country that has been built to develop was always looking. Our colonizers were not looking at, slavery in terms of, oh, let's carry these people to build our nation in short term. It's always the projection. What kind of country do we want this place to be? America should be, Canada should be. What kind of country are we envisioning for it to be? And the ancestors paid the price. We don't have that. Nkrumah tried to do it and he was saboted. We don't have that. So the electorates have the kind of leaders that they have. I always say that our leadership is a reflection of us. And I know you always disagree, but
yes,
it is.
I always disagree. I have it the other way around.
Well, I say that because if they tell us the truth, Mahama is telling us the truth, Bawumia is telling us the truth that, oh, this would go beyond my time, they will not get the vote. Hook them with the slogan, tell them it is free, but they will not question how you're going to fund it and how sustainable it's going to be.
So, and there's something going on with respect to the manifestos. There are some similarities, and there are accusations of ideas being stolen back and forth, right? There's accusation, counter accusation of both political parties that this one says you stole my idea, this one says you stole my idea. Now, last week spoke about the issue of the ministers, right? Ex-President Mahama said he, when given the nod, is going to appoint only 60 ministers. Bawumia says 50 ministers. So it almost sounds as if there's a competition to outdo each other with respect to some of these issues because they seem to be very popular. Now, I almost was tempted to dismiss the whole idea of manifestos. But again, this competition is making me rethink that position, whereby if an issue becomes popular and both parties are trying to knock each other out of the way to place themselves in front of that issue, then it could ultimately inure to the benefit of the Ghanaian electorate, particularly with respect to the appointment of ministers. That has always been an issue that almost every Ghanaian has complained that we have way too many ministers. So, but Oreku, what's your position on this issue of, stolen ideas? And I'll play some videos that would show the similarities of some of the ideas and also miracles and what's the guy's name? The NDC, Sami Jemfi, were on news file on each other over this matter. Yeah,
it's always been an age-old conflict among the two political parties. I remember 8 years ago when Nana was coming with this free stuff. I think the MPP delayed in releasing their manifesto. I think they released it last minute, and what they did was to then drop some of these promises in the air. So they will say when we come, because they said if they launch their manifesto, NDC is going to copy it. And the NDC is also accusing the MPP of copying their manifesto. The reality, though, is that if you go back to 1992 or 1996, when I started following politics, doesn't mean that I'm that old. Our problems are similar. So a lot of the solutions and a lot of the political parties have similar solutions. If you look at it, it's always, they don't really have a lot of policy divergence. Really, if you look at the two political parties, if you do a content analysis, they don't really have a lot of policy divergence. So the similarity will be there. It's funny why now they are racing against each other. So very soon somebody will promise 20 ministers. Very soon, because now this one is saying 50 and this one is saying 60.
Well, when
Very
they,
somebody puts promises.
and just a minute, the recent Constitution Review Committee actually recommended 20 ministers.
Yeah, which I think.
Yeah, and they
agree
said,
with
I
you.
mean, my problem with it is that they wanted to legislate it, which actually put it in the constitution, not rather than legislate it, which I had a problem with. But but they recommended 20 ministers. So
I think I heard it from this lawyer. I forgot
Clara Berry. Yeah, she is part of the committee. Yes,
I think I heard it like some months ago, years ago.
Yes,
from
but
her.
but the 28 ministers is something that is. Yeah.
All this has come because our politics doesn't respect common sense. Either than that, you shouldn't even put ceiling on ministers, because if you try to legislate it or codify it, what is going to happen is, as population explosion will expose you as a government. So basically what is going to happen is that we have two political parties always trying to undo each other with promises and delivery. And for me, it's worrying. Ghana has come to a point where, if I'm the advisors to the two political parties, I will basically tell them that, we kind of operating an iron law of oligarchy here and there. Two political parties are going to stay in office for a very long time. And for me, I think they should have, not for even anybody, an elite consensus on some of these things and look at the best interests of the country. And I always say that, it is in their own interest that they don't politicize public goods and services like hospitals, health, roads. These are common goods that whether you are rich or poor, you use it. And for them not to invest in those things, it's really sad. And I went to South Africa some years ago, and I saw where Baredu died because when he was sick, they brought. And it's something that Ghana should be able to have it. 37 military hospitals should be able to expand it. We should be able to expand it to have. Oh my God, these guys are making me. To have some of these things. So I think we have to do better as a country. And I will end it here for now. They're making me even forget drama.
Yeah, that's fine. So the politicization of public goods. I mean, I think it's an age-old problem. If you give politicians the opportunity, they are going to exploit every good. And for me, I always take it back to the way in which our political system was put together. And perhaps these decisions should have been made at the outset, that there are certain goods that are untouchable when it comes to using them as political pawns. Right. So, I mean, Zita, quickly on the issue of co-optation of each other's ideas, and then we'll move on from there to the next issue.
I mean, of course, there's nothing new under the sun, right? And of course, their policies overlap. When you look at all their campaign promises or the policies outlined in their manifesto, they overlap a lot. And I think we need to get into a stage in our democracy where we have a national development plan on certain key infrastructural and key policies. If it is health, infrastructure, economy, and then politicians can have, or political parties can have leeway to insert in their own, policies on other sectors. But we need to outline the key fundamental areas that Ghana needs to have in place for it to develop and move in the next 10 years and come together, be an apolitical national plan, and have that, so that even when you're campaigning, you may talk about the disability thing, which is good, but fundamentally the key things you're going to be focusing on, making sure that there is a good transportation network. Why is it that somebody cannot go work in, Akosombo via train and come back to Tema the same day? It happens in the UK. When I went to the UK, I was in a train from London to Coventry. And I saw people dressed in suits. They went to work in London, they're going back home. And so we need to come together. And these are some of the things that we are expecting the the electorates to push for. We need a national development plan. This whole thing of these are my campaign promises and that is just a mechanism for corruption and looting, honestly. Because once MPP has now ticked off free SHS policy, it has become the only thing. Oh, we've done free SHS. What about the 1 million, one constituency, one district, one factory, 1 village, one dam? Zero. Yes, but they are touting free SHS policy. So at this stage in our democracy,
there was one on agriculture. What was it? Forgotten the name. There was a huge project on agriculture by the MPP administration, but I don't think that saw the day of light either. But yeah,
right. So at this stage in our democracy, we don't need all these. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. We need a national development plan, apolitical, where stakeholders are engaged, where we outline key sectors, transportation, economy in terms of agriculture. It shouldn't be all encompassing. We need to leave room for politicians to impress us in certain sectors. But the major institutions, we need to move Ghana forward. We need to get education, transportation, and some aspect of healthcare and economy. Should be like plan. So choose. You will choose. Okay, part of the national plan, I'm going to focus on working on transportation, and in addition to that, these are the additional policies I'm going to do, which should be measurable within the within the 4 years. But no, how we are going, we will always come here and discuss, and it will go nowhere. All these campaign promises creates the loophole for corruption, because at the end of the day, we do not have systems to measure. Even the systems are there to measure that they didn't live up to their political promises. Nothing can be done about it. Because they said they were going to do, and they'll give us excuse. Oh, when I got into power, I couldn't do it because of X and Y reasons, and there's no way to hold them accountable. So we need to move away and have a national development plan that is apolitical, and then you can choose something from that is going to be your key, campaign manifesto, where you are going to outline how you are going to achieve that within the next 4 years, and then whatever, short-term substitute policies that you want to add to it, you can. But with the way we are going, Ghana is now going to develop. We are stuck in between NDC and MPP. One party might be the lesser of two evils, but at the end of the day, the system creates a lack of accountability on our politicians.
All right, so let me play Miracles Aboaji here, claiming that their policies were stolen by the NDC. And then we'll look at some of the specific issues. And
how do you call something that I'm paying for free? So they never introduced anything free, and I'm not surprised you are stuck.
So we are checking.
Okay,
we are checking a few things.
Yeah, check for me.
You say they have copied your what? Your policy for persons with disabilities?
Yes.
What's the proof that it is a copy from you?
Until Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia spoke about persons with disability in this election.
When?
Oh, during the original tour. I mean, I could check the date, but during the original tour. So definitely after February 7. Did you ever hear John Mahama speak about it within this election period?
So you're saying you spoke about it publicly
within
first.
This election period?
You spoke about it
within this election period.
You spoke about it first?
Yes, within this election period.
Okay.
Don't forget. Already there is a pilot rollout of the free tertiary education for the persons with disability. Already there is, and you can call the PWD associations. Already there's a partial rollout. I went to Kwapman School, so I know a lot when it comes to PWD.
Yeah, so when you are seeking the opportunity to come into government, there will be policies already.
Yes.
And what you do is to seek to improve those policies.
Absolutely.
So
and the guys are preaching research.
No, wait. What is copy?
Copy is when you don't come up with anything creative until you realize that your opponent is speaking about it and you think it's going to be beneficial to you, then you pick it.
Do you have in your manifesto free education, tertiary education for persons with disability?
Yes, it's here. It's in our manifesto. Verbatim.
In your manifesto, how do you say you intend to implement it?
Every person with disability that qualifies to go to tertiary education will be paid for free to pursue their tertiary education in Ghana.
Right. To the extent that someone also has that, it means they copied from you.
But if I prepare this document, Or if I stand somewhere and say something, and you say the next day, isn't it that easy for me to settle on the fact that you copied?
They said they will scrap e-levy. You say you will scrap e-levy.
Yeah.
Did you copy from them?
Maybe. It is possible. Why not? It is possible. If you say it before me and I say it afterwards, it is possible.
So you are copying from them?
Yes, it is possible.
Fair enough.
The principle is the same.
What else can you point to?
For example, so upgrade the surface of our football pitches to meet the highest international standard. They pick it. Under sports and sports, they picked it. Directly from our manifesto. You know, there's a reason why the NDC waited 8 years without putting out a manifesto.
Why do you said 8 years earlier? I thought that was a slip.
No, it's not.
What do you say 8 years?
But you have 8 years in opposition as opposition leader. You are elected 1.5 years before your opponent, and you wait. Your opponent announces the date for his manifesto. Then the next day you announce yours. What are you intending to do?
So what do we make of what you said, that most of what
I can give you more.
Most of what they have in the manifesto
Something is done
is
exactly
recycled.
20 minutes like I did. Exactly 20 minutes.
No, he hasn't yet.
So he started 10
You
Wait,
like
wait.
that thing too
Yeah.
much. You spoke all
Yeah.
this while I didn't.
Sorry.
Let's
Just pointing that out.
Let's not argue
You like
about the
that.
time.
You like
I spoke about the time, but unfortunately,
Exactly the same.
All right. Okay, I think we've had enough. So these are the arguments about copying of manifestos, and but I think he concedes somewhere that, in fact, there's some neutralization, right, and that the NDC too can accuse them of picking their idea of abolishing the e-levy and bed tax. So I don't know. I mean, is this a necessary argument by that?
I think politicians, Ghanaian politicians, engage in that kind of argument. But
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is that if the two political parties will read each other's manifesto,
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes sense that you do that. Copying is not like an exams or anything. Policy similarity is there. Lesson drawing is there. Policy borrowing is there. So yes, the political parties borrow from each other. They draw lessons from each other, but it's not I think the way he's using the copying is like, as we understand our understanding of copying, like, oh, they are following us, they are doing the same thing. I mean, it's part of Ghanaian political party politics, and there's unnecessary bickering that normally follow our politics. But the fact of the matter is this: our policies are similar in most cases because we have similar problems. We have a large chunk of our population that are poor. And at the same time, we have competitive political arrangement based on patronage. So, and also the opposite politicians are coming from the same kind of background in terms of families, in terms of that we are so interconnected in terms of our persuasions that I don't think any political party will really copy and quote the way he's trying to do. But what I know all of them does is that, of course, they are going to read each other's manifesto. Of course, they are going to borrow some lessons and see how things are done, even not only in Ghana, around the world.
Yeah. I mean, recently, Trump accused Kamala for stealing his idea that it won't be taxed on a tax on tips.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So it's just those political conversations will always happen. They're always okay. And we, the analysts, should elevate it a little bit and just say, hey, this is maybe a case of borrowing, a case of learning, policy learning. But the truth of the matter is that our problems are so similar that there's no way you can come with any creative, like the way the guy is talking about it.
Novel, so to speak.
Right? No, we don't have food, we don't have water, we don't have electricity. There's
Very
no
subsistence-based needs.
Every manifesto will talk about these things. Unemployment, every manifesto will talk about it. So that's basically that.
But I mean, okay, but let's shift to what you characterize these things as maybe things basic to our very subsistence, and so they will be similar. But how about the issue of digital jobs? So let me play Mohammed's promise of digital
jobs initiatives. digital jobs initiatives. We'll partner the private sector to invest $3 billion to leverage ICT for jobs. And this will be through the 1 million coders program. We announced this in 2020 and we didn't win power, so we couldn't implement it. Somebody lifted it from our 2020 manifesto and quickly put it out as if it was yes. I said, go and look in 2020, you see that we had already put it there. But we will continue with our 1 million coders program to train 1 million people in coding and web development, software engineering, and others. We will stimulate demand for made in Ghana software. We are exporting a lot of hard currency. When we import goods, we know that we are sending foreign currency out to buy those goods. When we import food, we are sending money out.
All right. Okay. So, he promised digital jobs. I'll play Bawumia's issue on this same matter. And then when we come back, but there's something that GM mentioned there that I think is very important for us to interrogate with respect to spending hard currency or our forex on software.
But Mark, President Mahama is also talking like miracle, though. He was also accusing and engaging in that politics of stealing and all this.
Yeah, I mean, it is happening even with Bawumia as well. So people at the top of the ticket as well as down the ballot have accused each other.
So it's not an issue of miracle; it's an issue of the top also having the same.
Well, but that's what I'm saying, that it's pretty much neutralized itself in a way that nobody can accuse the other of, because both sides are doing it, right? So, but let's hear Bawumia on this same matter.
Some centuries back,
okay,
I want to see what our continent did on the Industrial Revolution. Some centuries back, I want to see Ghana build the digital talent we require for the fourth Industrial Revolution. This will mean providing digital software skills to hundreds of thousands of youth. This, along with other priorities, will create jobs for the youth, including school dropouts. In collaboration with the private sector, we will train at least 1 million youth in IT skills, including software development, to provide job opportunities worldwide. Ladies and gentlemen, generally, there will be an enhanced focus on technical and
okay. Well, yes, I think somewhere in that clip he mentioned the coding as well, just as President Mahama did. But again, maybe we live in the era where the cyberspace has become an economy of its own, and so it's not surprising that each candidate would articulate a vision that is supposed to exploit that as a means of employment for its teeming youth, right? But and again, let me finally just play Mahama's position on e-levy, and then we'll put it all together.
In the first 120 days in office, we will hold a national economic dialogue to draw up a 4-year fiscal consolidation plan. We would rationalize taxes, abolishing, among others, the obnoxious e-levy.
Yeah. All right. So Bawumia also says he's going to abolish e-levy as well as the bed tax. And I mean, does he really? Because again, the issues just pile on each other, right? Because Bawumia was asked this same question, and it led to some other issue that I wanted us to discuss separately, because his response to that question generated a very viral video that has been going on around the social media for the past week. But yeah, he says he's going to abolish e-levy as well. So I guess my question is, are these the competition of ideas that are similar? Is it going to inure to our benefit in the long run? I mean, Zita, you can go first. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, Bawumia's party instituted a levy, so I'm not sure, why he's peddling back, but there has been, of course, reservations about. There have been issue pronouncements about his reservations with the entire process. So look, for me, the digital economy and this whole leveraging, it's about infrastructure. There's gonna have the infrastructure, because indeed we need, in as much as we need to be abreast with what is happening in the West has systems. In Ghana, if you are a digital creator, you are limited in terms of things that you can do. As somebody who has a big platform, unfortunately, I'm in Canada, but my contemporaries in America who have a huge platform in the US are virtually living good, because they get paid for their views and they have access to free products here and there. I have a friend who just finished an entire apartment with free products for having over 100,000 followers. I have over 100,000 followers, but I'm based in Canada. And so my thing is that when we are talking about the creator economy and how social media and ICT, information technology, is an economy on its own. It really is, depending on where you are in the world. But it's about having the systems and infrastructure in place. And I don't think that Ghana does have that in place. And that is the reason why, when you increasingly, if you have a presence on TikTok, it's amazing. You will see celebrities, African celebrities, Ghanaian celebrities, Nigerian celebrities, virtually begging for gifts. They're just doing what like the average person is doing, because the systems are not in place to ensure that they're getting paid. I heard in the in the grapevine that Facebook is going to have this monetizing feature. In as much as those things are good, how do we tax on that? Because that is the thing, you would pay a tax on TikTok when you want to cash out. Like I have received some funds through that, over $1,000 in the period that I've been there for almost 2 years, and there are tax implications. It means that it will be reported to your revenue agency, who would be able to track that. And so, in as much as I don't want us to jump and go like, oh, we are doing this and that, when we don't really understand the terrain and how we are going to create the systems in place. Because the information technology space, it is an economy on its own. It is creating millionaires every day, especially in America. It is creating millionaires. Like, your life can virtually change, and you would have an entire career being a social media influencer. But of course, the IRS is involved, and you have to pay your due diligence in terms of taxes and all that. So those systems must be in place for us to be touting all these policies around that. I will leave the e-levy for the other guests to speak on, but I want to land by saying that Ghana is like a malnourished child. And when you see a malnourished child, then you go like, first of all, you need to take a bath. I need to give you food. That is what you are supposed to do. My point of using a metaphor here is that there's nothing like you are stealing my policy. You are stealing. Ghana is a malnourished child. And so when you see the child and you want to address the concerns of that child, it will be similar. You might start with taking a bath and later getting the child checked and feeding. Somebody might say, okay, first of all, you need food, and then take a bath, and later you go get checked. Our problems are the same, and it will look like the solutions that needs to solve our problems will be similar. I want us to stop this politics of, this is my idea. Because it is my idea, you cannot even say that. That is detrimental to our growth as a nation. So yes, it's Ghana. The policies will look alike. The way you would, the difference should be how you are going to address it. It is not the policy in itself, but what methodology are you going to use to address it? That is where we need to see some variation. But in terms of saying, oh, this is my policy, I said it here, you stole it, that is kindergarten level politics. We need to move away from that and understand that Ghana's problem is what we see it to be, and you could have similarity in, or even the same policy. The difference or the variation should be how you are going to address it.
All right. So, I mean, if I'm, hearing you guys well, then I think at the end of the day, the verdict on this election is going to be based on the records rather than what is being promised in the future. Just by virtue of the fact that most of them are promising similar stuff. Yeah, I mean, in my honest opinion, I don't see that much variation with respect to the very substantive and significant issues that both parties are articulating as their vision for the future. I might say the NDC, with its 24-hour economy, probably has maybe a policy objective that sounds a lot more ambitious. And my opinion about the 24-hour economy is that, I mean, in reality, it cannot be implemented to the full context in which it is being articulated. But because of the fact that it's being promised, there's going to be some sense of urgency by the government to work towards it. And in the process of working towards it, I think it will bring about, it will elevate our economy beyond what it has traditionally been. So that's my hope for the 24-hour economy, that it is going to instigate the government into action, and that even if the achievements are not to the fullest, but at least it will move us beyond the business as usual economy that we currently prevail in, right? Oh, that's my personal opinion about that promise. But with respect to other issues, the promises are quite similar. And I think the verdict on this election is going to be on the record rather than the vision for the future because of this similarity, right? I mean, but Oreko, if you have anything, if you have a contrary view from what I'm saying, you're more than welcome. But I wanted to kind of ask you about this issue of the bed tax. In my opinion, I mean, bets are a genuine source of tax revenue for governments. But again, it goes back to this idea that each of the political parties are trying to outdo each other with respect to certain promises, such that they are now both promising that they're going to get rid of the bed tax. Do you think it's a good idea?
I mean, it's pretty straightforward to say no, but I don't know the nuance. Yeah. What I know is that when it comes to betting, lotteries, that kind of cha-cha kind of thing, it's a source of big money for governments. So for me, I don't know why they want to, all of them want to take the tax out.
But let me just, the argument here is that somehow it has become a source of earnings, basically livelihood for most of the young people.
Yes, that was what I was going to say.
But again, look,
like the young people, the unemployed young people
yes.
are engaged in it, especially sports betting. Yes. And they're using it as a way to navigate their the stress in the society or the stress in the system. So I think it's a way of appealing politically, appealing to the youth. But if politician is promising you something like betting, which 99% odds that you will never get rich through that, you will never make it.
The house will never lose.
You will never use betting to generate wealth. It will never happen. So if you are lucky, then bam, one day you win something. But
well, maybe one person, a couple of people may, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But in generality, you cannot use
because the house is not going to lose.
To support
the house never loses. Yes, that's the principle.
So if two political parties or the two politicians are promising us that they're going to take the tax off as a way to cushion the youth, then if I'm a young person and unemployed, I'll be sad. I'll be really sad, because that is really not something I expect. This is my stress coping strategy in terms of the unemployment in the situation. So in this case, I'm not making any moral judgment against anybody engaged in that, because they are doing what they can do to survive. But if I'm doing what I'm doing to survive, I don't expect you to use that as a policy alternative to cement my livelihood, because I know, as I'm engaging in this betting, I know that in most cases I lose money. In most cases, it's not a good source of life.
Yeah, it's a drain on their incomes rather than.
Yeah, it's a drain. Then you don't make it. Like the lottery organizations always make more money, so that's why they always advise you play responsibly. And even in some jurisdictions, they have a limit to which you can play. So they don't want you to come and use all your money and put it on a bet. And they have limit. So they're basically telling you that. But it comes back to the fact that, the reality is that Ghana's discussing, and I always tell you, discussing our politics at this level is one of the most hardest things you can engage in intellectually, because there's really nothing deep about it. It's the same thing we keep repeating. There is no nuance, there is no finesse in terms of trying to tackle our problems. So for me, it's a big issue that all of them are promising that they are going to take the taxes out. If really Bawumia is interested in taking taxes out, one thing that they have to take now, if I were Bawumia, I would lobby Akufo-Addo to take now, is the e-levy.
The e-levy.
You don't wait. I mean, I think it's in his own political strategy not to even wait to win office, because it doesn't make sense to people.
Okay.
Why are you promising us when
I think you are leading me into that. Well, let me play that
video. I thought you played something on that. Or
not yet. No, there's a video of his response to when a journalist asked him that if he's promising to take out the e-levy, why not do it now? And let's hear his response. Okay. It was, I mean, you may have come across the video somewhere because it was all over social media. And so let's listen to him, and then
was that we wanted to do these tax reforms, import duty, flat tax, tax amnesty, and so on. But why don't I do it now? And why do I want to? I must have a manifesto. Otherwise, if I do everything now, if I could, what would I do when I come into office? I mean, how can you do everything now? Even President Mahama, former president, who was president, I'm only vice president, but he was president. Why didn't he do everything then? I mean, why is he coming back?
I mean, Oreku, is this a politically expedient response?
The one is saying, actually, I haven't heard that. I read transcript of that. The man is saying, let me reserve something to do. You know, that one I come on again. I like Bawumia. I really like him. But
when you were a grad student, was there any?
He was trying to be humorous, but it really didn't end up well. I think he was trying to be humorous. He was just, I think he didn't have an answer to that question. He didn't have an answer. He himself know that he didn't really give a good answer. He didn't have an answer to it because it's a sensible question. Mm-hmm. And in response, he messed it up. It's funny though. The laughter aspect of it makes it it's humorous. But for you to think that when you come, you're not going to get something to do. The problems we have in Ghana is so much that even if we bring a magician for the next 8 years, we still have a lot of things to do. So even American presidents still have something to promise. Canadian prime ministers have something to promise. Mm-hmm. I don't know what Bawumia thinks that if he does that, he will not get something to do. I think that, following from what I was saying, if I'm advising him, I will say, hey, talk to your boss. And I agree with him. He is not the president. Talk to your boss. Lobby him and get away that e-levy. So that you do two things with that. You tell people that you mean business. And secondly, you take away NDC's, one of NDC's promise, politically speaking. Mm-hmm. And it also is an admission that we were wrong. And we've realized that we got it wrong on that policy. We are changing it. I mean, this can still be the political angle where people can read meaning that you are doing it for political expediency, which is true. But the mere fact that you are promising that when you come, you're going to take this tax that you brought, no, you per se, by your government, which you were part of. Even if you disagreed in closet, we don't know. And it can be that he disagreed with our policy in closet. But if I were him, I would lobby Akufo-Addo hardly. I would put a lot of pressure on him, call the other parties, party leaders to put pressure on him and say, hey, we are losing this election. We want this tax out. we want to abolish the tax before even we come to office. But his response that if I do it now, I'll not get anything to do is. I respect him a lot, so I cannot be hard.
It's been the source of comic relief.
I think it was comic relief. He's trying to be humorous. He didn't have an answer to it, and he said that to make it funny. And Bawumia is very good when anytime he throw a jab at Mahama, because he did it very well. He said even John Mahama couldn't do everything, and it tells you that whoever comes to office in the next 8 years will not even be able to do everything, because we have a lot of issues. And not that we have a lot of issues, our problems keep reinventing itself right there. So for you to say that, I think he didn't speak well, it's not really intellectual, not even intellectual. It's not a smart response. It's not, but it's funny. It's really funny.
I guess he was caught flat-footed, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, Zita, do you even think the whole media encounter thing was a good idea? Because the NDC outdoored its manifesto on Saturday, and then the following day, Sunday, Bawumia decided to hold this encounter with the media, where he put himself forth to be questioned without any bounds. Even though my understanding is that not every media personality was given access, and also there is credible allegation that the media people that were present were given envelopes of money. Right. The Fourth Estate, which is a very credible media house, reported on this. I think the communications officer or the spokesperson for the campaign, Miracles, that we saw in that video, tried to do some cleanup, but it wasn't quite a cleanup. In fact, I think it made a further mess of the whole situation. But was it a good idea to put himself in this position, and also this allegation of, you know, paying media personalities to come and ask questions?
I mean, I was listening to Bawumia's media encounter when I was preparing, and I was wondering if it was just another opportunity to indirectly campaign, because in his entire response, he was, talking about what they have done and referencing Mahama's lacking credibility and his inability to understand hard data. And I am wondering, is this, is this an opportunity for, the watchdogs of Ghana's society, which is media, to come and ask the critical questions that need to be asked? Or it is another organized strategy for Bawumia to campaign? And so for me, that was, I felt like it was just an avenue to campaign. And we all saw how one of Ghana's online personalities or bloggers, Kojo Sheldon, ended up putting the NDC on blast in terms of this whole media encounter, and claimed that he was given a specific question. He was going to be given a specific question to ask Mahama, and he refused, and that's the reason why he didn't show up. So the key question is that what happened in the case of Bawumia? And are the rumors of envelopes being shared the truth? And this comes back to what I said, that the ordinary Ghanaian is not patriotic. The ordinary Ghanaian is not thinking about the future, the kind of Ghana that they want their children to inherit. Because if you are the watchdogs of our society, you are supposed to go there, make sure you've read the entire manifesto, asking critical questions that the candidate is now privy to, have not been privy to, so we can see his level of competency. And so for me, was it organized in a sense? That is the key question. Was it organized? Because when I was listening, it felt like, he was on stage campaigning, but in this stage interacting. And there were people who were clapping, and so I was like,
you saw the room. I mean, not to take sides here, but it wasn't quite as full as the John Mahama's media engagement. It almost seemed like you could see that, I guess, it was a selection of media houses. It didn't quite look like the entire media body in Ghana was allowed into the room. I don't know. I'm just, speculating here. But it feels like it was a little bit more staged compared to what happened in respect of Mahama.
Yeah, and I'm wondering what is the clapping for? He's not the choir. We are not here to, massage his ego and make him feel like he's a competent leader or competent vice president. We are here to pick his brain, on key issues, and the media is not supposed to be biased. And so, and I watched, I think, Muhammad's interaction, the consistent clapping, everything he says, people are clapping. So I'm there and I'm like, is this an extension of MPP's campaign, or really meeting the media and being asked, questions, even if, being asked questions, hopefully questions
Yeah,
that
I
you
mean,
are
I think
aware.
an engagement with the media can be an opportunity to campaign, but in other instances, it's also a way of, making yourself accountable, right? By uh, making yourself available for questioning, to be scrutinized on the issues and also on past performance. For instance, when Kamala was made the nominee of the Democratic Party, there has been criticisms that she hasn't taken an interview with the media since the announcement. And in fact, that almost went against her heavily in terms of the polling. So about a couple of days ago, she had to sit together with her running mate, with Donna Bash, who is a CNN reporter, to engage the media. So in that respect, they see it as being accountable, right? Holding yourself up for accountability. And in other instances, it can be an avenue for campaign. So in the case of Bawumia here, I don't know which one it was. Was it for availing himself for accountability, or it was an opportunity to mount a platform and campaign?
Yeah, for me, it seemed like, an extension of a campaign. I feel like I feel like a media encounter, a media engagement is an opportunity for us to vet. The ordinary Ghanaian may not be able to go to ask their questions. And so hopefully through the work of the media, they're able to ask the difficult and critical questions, so we are able to assess his competency on all grounds, even your ability to think on your feet, because there are things they're going to ask you that you might not have answers to. But do you have the wit? Do you have the grit to be able to maneuver and answer the questions well? Those are the key indicators of a good leader. And so for me, that's what I'm saying. For me, it felt like an additional campaign. People were clapping at everything he said. There was people were cheering him on. What exactly are we cheering him on? You are here to meet the media. You are supposed to be asked tough questions, and then you answer it. So we assess your level of competency and your ability to lead in the highest office of the land. But it became like, oh, he is the choir leader, and his choir was sitting there and they were cheering at everything he said, and he was just taking jabs at the President Mahama. I mean, of course, typically you're supposed to take jabs at your opponent because you're supposed to present yourself in a better light. But for me, it just felt like an extension of a campaign. He had people set up as props who were clapping at everything he said, and that for me was difficult for me to kind of follow the conversation, because every 5 minutes, every 2 minutes, somebody's clapping. And so I was trying to follow his thought process to see how well and how accurately he was responding to some of these questions.
Okay. All right. So, Oreku, I'll come to you with the political expediency of engaging with the media. I mean, I honestly didn't think there was a lot of positive outcome from it because of the things that emerged. Particularly, this video didn't put him in a very good light. And there were other responses to questions that I think overexposed him, which could be detrimental politically. But it seems like Bawumia wants to engage. And I don't know, it's because he feels the issues are against him. He wants Ghanaians to give him the opportunity to explain himself, because he wants a debate as well. How do you see that as somebody who is politically savvy, strategy-wise, going into the election?
So if you are a vice president and you are the incumbent, and historically every 8 years the government will change, and you have your own challenges in terms of delivering on your promises as a political party, and you're trying to get your message across. I think Bawumia is doing whatever he can to get himself out and get his message across. As to whether the message is going across well, and as to whether he's delivering his answering the questions the way he's supposed to answer, it's a whole different thing. But in terms of political strategy, I think availing yourself to the media is good. Availing yourself to even the popular media or the social media or the media platforms is good. At the same time, I think the time they chose was also good. I think the NDC did the manifesto, and Bawumia did the
media engagement
media encounter. I think
the following day, yeah.
So at least Bawumia would take a little bit of the attention from the NDC in terms of that space. I think that was a thinking as they were arranging that engagement. And of course, within the media engagement space, they have their own. Don't forget, all the political parties have their own media outlets. So those media outlets will get a front seat. So those media outlets will represent Oman FM and all those, their newspapers, and they'll represent. And their goal will be to usher Bawumia into the hard questions that will come from the objective media, if there is. But
they will throw him softball questions.
The goal of doing that media encounter is never to get hard questions. You hope that you can, if you can get your way and sponsor some people, you hope you're going to do that. And that has been what we've been doing all this while. When it comes to the issue of giving money to the media and corruption, I don't doubt the expose. I think it is possible to happen, and it has been happening across. And we have even media outlets that have come out to say that this party pays more, this party doesn't pay, so normally we don't want to go and cover. It came to a point in Ghana, if you call for press conference, and some of these politicians have complained, and you don't pay some media outlets or you don't pay some journalists, they don't come. They don't come and cover for you. You don't pay them like you pay their salary, but they normally frame it out.
They call it Solly, right?
Solly. They have a name for that.
Yeah.
And at times they say, use for transportation. Mm-hmm. And when you go, your bosses are expecting that you bring that.
It's like a tip, right?
It's a tip. So just that we haven't, Ghana, there are a lot of also things that we haven't really institutionalized it well. We have to have a good name for that, because at times when they go back, their bosses expect that how much did this bring to us. So it's part of their whole calculation. Mm-hmm. But I hope that Bawumia could have actually responded to some of the questions well. And I think he did his best. In some of them, he couldn't. And that then becomes shooting yourself in the foot. Especially
but does it go back to political strategy in Ghana? Because, I mean, I'm aware that in the US, right, they anticipate questions and prepare a candidate for them. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think you needed a soothsayer to tell you that if Bawumia availed himself to the media, they were going to ask him questions about the fact that he's promising this, yet he's in power. This is something that people are already saying on social media and even in the mainstream media. So the fact that he wasn't prepared, again, it speaks to the overall strategy of politicians and their, preparation to encounter media and other points of scrutiny. Yeah.
And because it boils down to our level, the standard we set in terms of even our own governance system, the politicians, even MPs, the staffing is not even there. They don't even do any detailed research when they are even preparing their bills. Some of them don't even have personal assistant or staff to support them with any research. Even the speeches that our politicians give, our presidents give, they are most of the time weak. And at times we have concerns of plagiarism here and there coming from all over, if you go back. And it tells you that if you are a presidential writer, or if you are writing for president and your job is to write for president and you are paid for that, and you go and copy from here and there, just with the standard. I remember Koko Anyido, who once said that he was writing most of Atamose's speech which shouldn't be the case because he had a portfolio. He
Yeah.
had a job doing. So
Yeah.
if he is the one writing, then you don't expect him to be able to write any because he's busy.
Yes.
We should have well defined. So these are it comes down to the type of country we have, and in terms of standards, how we adhere to it, and also quality in delivery. So, like you said, Bawumia should have expected that. It's a commonsensical question. If you say you're going to abolish this levy that you introduced, why don't you abolish now?
Mm-hmm.
I think it may be a good answer would have been, okay, I've tried, I've lobbied my boss, he doesn't want to listen. That would have even been an honest answer.
Yeah, I think at this point it's about time he's willing to throw his boss under
Yeah.
the bus on some of the issues, right?
then that when everybody will know, okay, it's a Kufuor who is, even if you're lying, at least that is more sensible answer to that. But to just say if I do it, I will not get something to do, it's not.
Yeah. Right.
So that's what I'm saying. But in terms of strategy, I think Bawumia has made this election a little bit competitive. It's an election that NDC has to win. It's NDC's election to lose. But I think NDC is also struggling. NDC is not getting a lot of their message across. NDC is not doing a good job with political campaigning. NDC is not doing a good job with even getting their manifesto across. NDC couldn't even explain the 24-hour economy.
I would disagree with you on that score to some extent.
Yeah, you just let me finish. I know you.
Yeah.
So NDC is struggling. It's just that the MPP has bruised itself so much that NDC might win the election. Other than that, if it had been 2008, it would have been a tough election for the NDC, and the NDC wouldn't have been able to go.
All right. Okay. Well, Zita, if you have any final words, but I was thinking that we would end 30 minutes past the hour. But yeah, I'll give you the last word on any issue.
Yeah, we are following keenly. When Bawumia was asked if there's anything that he disagreed with the government, in as much as I'm not a fan of him, he said something that I would give him credit for. He said we may disagree, and when there are policies we disagree, but every policy that has come out is as a result of collective consensus. So I cannot stand here and backtrack on saying that I did not agree, because it represents the collective. And so in terms of going down for his party for some of the policies that people think might not be best, I would respect somebody who takes accountability. So it's tough. I can imagine running for president. It is tough, but it is Ghana, it's a country, and we want the best candidate possible to represent us and move the country forward. So we are watching keenly as and when some of us can come on the show to share our perspectives. We will do that. The only thing I have to say to land my ship is that we need the electorates to keep their eyes on the ball. Ghanaians are too easily distracted. For me, as somebody who is often scrolling through social media to see what is going on. We have just a few months to elections. Ghanaians are easily distracted. I need them to keep their eyes on the ball. I need them to understand that it is not just about them and what they want done now. It is about the kind of Ghana we want our children and our grandchildren to inherit. So they need to keep their eyes on the ball. It is a politics of ideas. It's a politics of track record. Don't be carried away by sloganeering. We need to, that is how we were scammed into free SHS and one district, one factory, 1 million, one constituency, one village, one dam. And we did not see that 8 years in, and we did not see that. So keep your eyes on the ball. Do not be distracted. Focus on the type of Ghana that you want your children and your grandchildren to inherit.
All right. Okay. So the mantra between the two political parties is reset versus upgrade. The NDC is arguing that Ghana needs a reset, and so the MPP should be kicked out. And the argument of the MPP is that, in fact, Ghana needs an upgrade from what the current situation is. So perhaps they think they've done enough and they only need to elevate it a little bit more. versus the NDC's position that conditions are so deplorable that we need a complete overhaul and a reset to, begin afresh, if you like, right? So thank you, Zita and Oreku, for joining me this afternoon. We are grateful to our viewers who make it possible for us to come up here every Saturday to have a conversation about our dear country, Ghana. I always say we live in the diaspora, but the issues of Ghana concern us and are equally as important to us as those in Ghana. And we find it as almost a sense of duty and responsibility to engage with the issues and contribute to the discourse for a better future for Ghana, right? So until this time again next week, I would say enjoy the rest of your weekend. All right, bye, guys.
Satasua,